Welcome, everyone. My sister Kayla and I are excited today for our Swoon-Worthy podcast episode to talk Sense and Sensibility. Now, this is Jane Austen's first published novel, published in 1811. It was published anonymously. It said by a lady as the author's name, and then later the public learned who Jane Austen was and how amazing she really was. Now, this one tells the story of two sisters, the Dashwood sisters, and their family, Eleanor, age 19, and Marianne, age 16 and a half, and their coming of age story. They have a devoted mother. It starts out their father just passes away. They have a younger sister, Margaret, around age 13, so she's much younger, and an older half brother. This has been adapted a few times, most notably in 1995. This is a fantastic movie directed by Ang Lee, who also directed Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Brokeback Mountain. So he has a very interesting repertoire of movies. But what's wonderful about this is the screenplay. The Oscar-winning screenplay was written by Emma Thompson, and she went to star in it alongside Kate Winslet as her sister. So we're going to really do a deep dive into this story, into this movie, and we're also going to talk about a BBC miniseries version that's a bit more recent. It was done in 2008. So I hope you enjoy this journey into the beautiful world of the Dashwood sisters with us. Kayla, now, I'm pretty sure we have watched Sense and Sensibility a long time ago together, back when we used to project movies onto the wall in our living room. I know this story has been a favorite, and we ourselves feel like we're relatable to the sisters. Me, as an older sister, I've always felt a bit close to Eleanor Dashwood, and you, as my younger sister, maybe a bit more Marianne.
Oh, yes. And not just because of the age difference. I'm definitely more with my family. I'm more vocal with what I'm going through. Then you're definitely more, you'll keep it inside and not trouble others with it.
Yeah, no, I feel like the personalities are so similar to ours. And I remember, Kayla, I read this book in middle school. I told everyone on this podcast, I read all the Jane Austen works in middle school. I was just in love with her writing and instantly thought of you and me. And this was before you and I had even really grown up to be the women that we are now. It was just us to a T. I always loved it.
Oh,
So Emma Thompson wrote the screenplay. She spent 5 years working on this screenplay, and you can tell with the care and attention she put into it because it's such a beautifully crafted film. I think the casting was perfect. Emma Thompson as Eleanor, and a very young Kate Winslet as Marianne. And this was pre-Titanic for Kate. I think everyone got to see who she really was. I think she had done a couple of other movies right before this, but this role was big to her because she got an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actress, and Emma got a Best Actress nomination from it. Other cast members. So we have Gemma Jones as the mother, Miss Dashwood, and you may remember her as the mother in Bridget Jones' Diary. Alan Rickman as Colonel Christopher Brandon, Hugh Grant as Edward Ferrars, Greg Wise as John Willoughby. So we have some very swoon-worthy men in this one. Lots to talk about there. So we start out with a little bit of family drama. The house that the sisters and the mom grew up in has to be bequeathed, given to their older half brother, and he's going to move in and take over, and he brings his wife Fanny, played by Dame Harriet Walter. And the Fanny character is ridiculous, like over the top, horrible woman, but funny. They kind of encroach on the sisters and the mom's space, but then we happily get to see Hugh Grant come in there riding on his horse as the brother of Fanny, and he and Eleanor hit it off. So these two, you can see they're instantly drawn to each other. Their personalities and moods just suit each other so well, and instantly you're like, yes, this is going to be a perfect marriage. But then, of course, circumstance and the meddling of Fanny drive them apart. What do you think about Hugh Grant in the role?
Oh, Hugh Grant. He's always swoon-worthy in his earlier roles. He's got that cute shy boy energy going for him. I think he's perfect for this role.
Yes, like a bit like his Notting Hill character and Love Actually. You gotta love him in Love Actually. Of course, we've seen different sides to Hugh Grant in Bridget Jones' Diary. He's more of the Wickham character, the ne'er do well. So he is able to do all the roles. But I do like this. I love him in this kind of a role. So
Yeah.
sweet.
He's so funny, like naturally with his roles and everything he does. He's just something about him is he just makes you laugh.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I read that Emma Thompson wrote the role, the screenplay with him in mind. He was the first choice for this. And strangely enough, people were so down about the ages of these characters. So and the actors that played them. So people often think and comment that Emma Thompson was too old for the part. So she was 35, 36, when this came out. Again, she took a long time, years to develop the screenplay. And then Hugh Grant was 34. So it's like there's really, but people were saying she was too old for him. And it's just, it's so annoying to hear people say that, I think.
Yeah, that's silly. I mean, I think unfortunately Hollywood likes to cast very young women with much older men, and that's just what people are used to, I think. And
Mhm.
so it's really cool that she was given this opportunity.
I think so. And she's just so perfect for it. I think she gives the character of Eleanor just so much depth. Um, But then we have, on the other hand, Kate Winslet, who was 19 when she made this, closer in age to the Marianne character, who's 16 and 17 in the book. Now, she kind of has two love interests. We have Colonel Brandon, played by Alan Rickman, and Greg Wise as John Willoughby. So, curious enough, what we were just talking about, how Hollywood casts the young actresses with the older actors. In the book, Colonel Brandon is only 35, but I feel like they always cast like a 40-year-old in the role. So it's almost like the opposite of what they usually do. Like with Emma, for example, they cast Mr. Knightley too young, even though he's in his 40s. This one, they cast an older. It's just so interesting how they do that.
Yeah, I would say out of this movie, the only person I think they could have gotten someone better for is that character that Alan Rickman plays. Great actor. I don't know. I think because well, mention the miniseries just for a second. The actor they chose for Colonel Brandon in the miniseries, he's probably a little too old still, but he's definitely more swoon-worthy. Okay, back to the
No worries. No, but okay. So I'm going to stop you there because I know some of our listeners are going to disagree with you heavily. Many, okay, I've done polls in my Instagram, period drama style. People love Alan Rickman in the role. They love him as Colonel Brandon. They find him top notch, like along the same lines of Mr. Darcy. Like Colonel Brandon's up in the running with Mr. Darcy. I
okay.
think, here it is.
I think it's because of Harry Potter.
I think it's because of Harry Potter. You and me, while we did see this early on when we were younger, I mean, so much of our memories are crafted from like Harry Potter and him as Severus Snape. So and then in Love Actually, he's not really a great guy in Love Actually either.
No, I mean, as an actor, he's great,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I love him in movies and everything. But as this type of role, it fits because she's kind of at the beginning, she's not very much interested in him, so it fits, and she kind of just falls in love with him because he's so adoring to her. So it definitely works. I personally would have preferred a younger, more conventionally attractive man to play the role, but
And that's true. I mean, I have to agree with you that I don't like for me, I love Hugh Grant. Like I've always been, kind of attracted to him and it's just yeah. And then we have okay, then we have Greg Wise.
I love how you just had to throw that in. Like, I've always
Okay.
been kind of attracted to him.
Okay. But I don't know. Hugh Grant, he's just okay, sorry.
Dashing.
He's just charming and sweet and like in a very goofy way. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we have Greg Wise as John Willoughby because he does catch the attention of Marianne right away. I mean, he rescues her from her hurt ankle in the rain, carries her as if she was light as a dried leaf or a feather in the miniseries. I can't remember what the book says. And, you know, he's kind of like the perfect hero. He swoops in there on his horse to save her, damsel in distress. And they have a lot in common: poetry, being free with your emotions and your personality, less conventional. And when you watch this movie for the first time, or read the story, or even if you just kind of put it away and you come back to it, you kind of get engrossed again in their relationship and you're like, they're so perfect for each other. You forget how much of a horrible character he is because you almost want it to work. At least that's how I feel. Do you agree?
Oh yeah, because I mean he did kind of fall in love with her even though he was trying to see if she had money or whatever, right? But at the end of the day, back then it was different. You if you didn't have money, you had to try to find a way to get it. And he did fall in love with her and you could tell, but he had to go follow the money.
Yeah, no, I do think that he did genuinely fall in love with Marianne, and it's comes across in the on-screen adaptations, and there's the regret there, and that's mentioned in the book too. But we don't know that for so much of the movie until that horrible scene where she shouts Willoughby across the room at the ball or the assembly rooms in London. Can't remember. I think it's a ball, and that scene is so cringeworthy, so embarrassing. It gets me every time. You just feel for her like she just made a fool of herself in front of all of society. And it's so sad.
It is. You just said cringeworthy. Maybe we should do an episode of like all of the cringeworthy moments in all period films.
That could be fun. Maybe around a Halloween or something. But I mean, you just, ugh, that gets me every time. Like, I almost don't love watching that scene because it's just so painful. She's so all in and so open with her emotions. And she trusted Willoughby to be the same. In a few months earlier, Willoughby would have run across the room to greet her, to meet her, and things have changed. And it's just, ugh, it's tragic.
Yeah, and I think I think that's why this movie connects with people because you know it's got a lot of the unrequited love aspect to it and with both sisters, and I think that happens in life a lot, especially when you're young, like you're talking to someone and then the next day it's just different and they've changed their mind or or they've met someone else or who knows what happens. And so I think this movie's like chicken soup for the soul.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know some people refer to this as a comfort movie. Um it's yeah. And continuing with Willoughby, so we it's clear that he did love her, and it's said he did love her, but he was a rogue, awful character. He got another girl pregnant. I mean, you can't forget that. And he made some poor choices. He has to live with his regret. And then Marianne kind of goes back to Eleanor and says, I feel ashamed of how I acted. And then Eleanor says, do you compare your conduct to his? And she says, no, I compare it to what it ought to have been. I compare it to yours. So you see these two women who are still learning and growing. And in the end, Marianne wishes she had kind of held back and not been so expressive in her emotion. But I do love how she kind of tells her older sister, like, how can you be so calm in your affection? Why do you stay bottled up? That's not healthy, maybe, to be so bottled up. Um, and then I feel like they really should have talked to each other more and shared each other's confidences more. Do you have anything on that?
Well, yeah, I think some people everyone reacts differently to sadness or disappointment or like depression even. Just being melancholy and you know, I'm like I definitely relate more to Marion where I'm like I have to get it out or it's going to eat me alive. I have to share it with others to get support. And I think that's why we see her burst into tears at the end when Edward comes back at the end and he's kind of just like, well, I'm not getting married now. And she just bursts into tears. And it's because she's kept it in.
I have to say, I love that scene. Emma Thompson just breaking down in front of everyone. It's so, like you said, kind of uncharacteristic, and she's finally just letting it all loose. And I love her acting. It's a little comical too. And they like leave the room, the sister and the mom, sisters and the mom. And then that part where and then Hugh Grant is great in his little monologue about explaining why he had to, fulfill his commitment, and then he finally got free from it. And she just looks up smiling at him, and like I just love Emma Thompson's acting in that scene so much.
Oh, yeah. And I've noticed a common theme and I love it when women are in the room and then they're like, "Oh, he's on the way or he's coming to the door." And they have to wrestle to get ready and like straighten up or something. Like it's in almost all of the adaptations and I love that. It happens in this movie.
Yes, and I think we have to think about the 2005 Pride and Prejudice. You can recall the Bennett sisters doing that thing when Mr. Bingley and Mr. Darcy come in the end. So yes, and a little callback to the '05 Pride and Prejudice. We talked about this in our podcast episode before. Dame Emma Thompson was brought in to help with the screenplay of the '05 Pride and Prejudice because she's so wonderful at these Jane Austen adaptations from the book to the screenplay to the script. So yeah, I like how you called that one out. A couple other interesting facts about this. So, did you know, Kayla, Emma Thompson in real life is married to Greg Wise, who plays Willoughby.
I think you have mentioned that to me before, so I'm not so surprised because I remember it, but yeah, that's cool.
So, they met on this movie, and this was after um, Emma Thompson was having a divorce from Kenneth Branagh, and Helena Bonham Carter was kind of caught up in that. So that was sort of a sad thing that happened to Emma Thompson. But she ended up dating Greg Wise, and they dated for many years, and they got married, and they're still married today. So even though Greg Wise plays such a rogue character, a Wickham like character in this, in real life, I'm sure he's a great man, and to be married to Emma Thompson, he picked a good one. I mean, she's phenomenal. So I don't know. I just love that. And then the the actor who plays Robert Ferrers in this is married to Emma Thompson's sister Sophie in real life. So I don't know. I picture this set back in 1995, all these great actors, British actors and actresses, and I think they were all friends, in real life on the set. I think Kate Winslet and Alan Rickman were watching Wimbledon together in the trailers. I mean, I feel like the set. And Emma Thompson and Kate Winslet lived together to try to get that sisterly bond. So, like, I just feel like the making of the movie must have been so sweet, and it has such a great product here. This movie.
Yeah, I love how, the top British actors they're all kind of connected and friends and because they're kind of in their own little world sometimes and it's just so cute.
It is cute, and then they all went to be in Harry Potter together.
Yeah.
um. All right. So the music is good in this. We have Patrick Doyle as the music supervisor and composer. I think the music is swoon-worthy in this. We get to hear Kate Winslet sing at the pianoforte, and that's always lovely. The ball scene we talked about a little bit, but we didn't really talk about the costuming. Oscar nominated costumes in this Sense and Sensibility movie by Jenny Beavan and John Bright. So they did a lot of the Merchant and Ivory films in the 90s, and Jenny Beavan did Ever After. So that's kind of cool. Now we get a little bit of, your not so bold, colorful costuming in this one. It's more subdued, it's more muted. The Dashwood sisters are not as well off as Emma, right? But I still think we have some pretty costumes and hair in the ball scene. I love Eleanor's sort of light purple lilac dress. I think it's very pretty on her. Kate Winslet wears a nice teal blue, and they always have the ribbons in their hair.
Oh, yes. I love that scene, and they're just so beautiful in this movie. And the Regency era styling is so lovely on them. And um, the colored dresses are wonderful, and the jewelry, and I just love it.
Yeah. It's like it doesn't distract in this movie. It's just kind of, it looks very natural, I think, the costuming and hair. And the men's clothing are always, fun to look at too. I think it's so funny. They're always so buttoned up, and I feel like they're always so uncomfortable when they have to sit down in the living rooms and stuff. They're all stiff, like especially Hugh Grant in this when he's sitting down, he looks so
Yeah.
odd.
I love Kate Winslet when she's wearing, I think like peach and pink colors look so wonderful on her.
Mhm.
She's wearing, I see her wearing some of that.
And some pale yellow, I think.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
pale yellow, the warmer tones I like on her, I think.
Mhm. Very pretty. And then I think Eleanor she wears like a checkered, like green and white. She wears a navy blue. So she's kind of got those colors going on more, green and blue, maybe.
Yeah, and I love the setting of this movie on the coastline. It adds to that relaxing, airy feeling you get with the movie. And I just love a good atmosphere to a film.
And it said, so they're taking a cottage in Devonshire. And I love how it's very informal and light, like you said. So it's the perfect setting for Willoughby and Marianne to just be in love and running around. And but then of course they transition to London. All these revelations happen. And then there's the Lucy Steele character who is definitely jealous of Eleanor. And um, I feel like, especially in this version, tries to sort of undermine Eleanor's feelings to Edward and make her feel a bit like, oh, even if y'all did have a little tiny romance, he still is going to marry me. So like that Lucy character is so annoying to me.
Yeah, she is annoying. See, I'm bad at interpreting intentions sometimes with women. So like to me, she seemed just kind of ignorant of the fact that they were an item or she was interested in him.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it's done differently in different versions. In this one, I feel like some of the looks she kind of gives Eleanor, played by Emma Thompson, is kind of like as if Edward has spoken highly of her. So it sounds like Edward has said, "Oh, yes, so I met Miss Dashwood and she's a very upstanding woman." So I feel like she's kind of seeing that they could have gotten closer in her absence, and she's trying to kind of like undermine that a little bit. That's my take on this version for sure, less so the miniseries.
just like poking at her a little bit because she's insecure.
Yes, exactly. And then I love when it's revealed that she had an engagement to Edward, and Fanny, played by Harriet Walter, just like goes crazy and like pinches her nose and kicks her out of the house. I don't know. That scene is
Oh
very
yeah,
comical.
I love that.
Other comical scenes. So we have Imelda Staunton and Hugh Laurie playing Mr. and Mrs. Charlotte Palmer. And Hugh Laurie is so funny in this. And Imelda Staunton, there's that part where she's saying, "If only the rain would stop," and then Hugh Laurie says, "If only you would stop." Like there's such um just an odd couple, and he's not afraid to just say these like things. It's just such comic relief. And then there's a part where he's leaving Eleanor. So Hugh Laurie, Mr. Palmer, is leaving Eleanor, and he's very sincere and very much like, I wish I could help you and Marianne's sick. And I almost think he's looking at Eleanor like, I wish my wife were more like you than this crazy lady. I don't know. I feel like there's a little moment there.
Yeah, I think I picked up on that too.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the 1995 movie. It's a staple in people's, Jane Austen adaptations. People love this movie, consider it as a comfort film, and it's almost hard to beat, but they did try to. They tried to match it in a 2008 miniseries, Sense and Sensibility by BBC. I believe it's 3 parts. And we have actress Hattie Morahan as Eleanor. Now, she's a theater actress and been in a few things, married to Blake Ritson, the actor, Kayla, who played Elton in the miniseries of Emma that you mentioned with Swoon-Worthy. They're married in real life. Charity Wakefield as Marianne. Now she's in The Great with Elle Fanning. She's in Wolf Hall. Love her as an actress. Lucy Boynton, young Lucy Boynton, is the 13-year-old Margaret Dashwood. So Lucy Boynton is such a big name now with Sing Street, Bohemian Rhapsody, Pale Blue Eye, among other things. And she's just a young thing in this. She's so cute and a bit of a scene stealer, I think. Janet McTeer is Miss Dashwood. You may recognize her from the White Queen. I think she really brings a lot to the role of the mother Dashwood. Then we get the men. Okay, so we have Dan Stevens, Downton Abbey, Matthew as Edward Ferrars, David Morrissey as Colonel Brandon, Dominic Cooper as Willoughby. Okay, so let's just start talking about the men. Okay, how do you think Dan Stevens compares as Edward Ferrars to Hugh Grant?
I think Dan Stevens did such a great job. Honestly, all these actors, I feel like they paid homage to the film adaptation. They all had the same kind of energy. He's great. Like that's perfectly casted, I think, for him.
I agree. Yeah, I think they must have really looked at the movie that did so well, that is so special to people's um in people's minds and hearts, and so they wanted to kind of replicate the energy. And like you said, well said. um David Morrissey, earlier you mentioned you liked him as Colonel Brandon a bit more. You thought he was a bit more swoon-worthy as Colonel Brandon.
Yes. Is that actor British?
I believe he's British. Kayla, you must have forgotten. You must have blocked this out of your head.
Oh, I know.
You know.
He was in The Walking Dead.
Yes, he's the governor and he's so evil. So I can't get past it very much.
I can. He did great. He was a great
Oh, he
choice.
was.
He doesn't, I don't know how old he was when he filmed that, but he just looks, he looked like he was in his 40s or
He
something.
was 44.
Okay, yeah. So I think they could have still gotten someone a little younger, but he's definitely handsome. So.
Yeah, when he kind of catches her when she faints in the ball, like that part does kind of take my breath away as a woman. I'm just like, oh, he's right there to catch her.
Yeah, he does gets the job done for sure.
And then Dominic Cooper as Willoughby. Now he's in The Duchess with Keira Knightley. He, I think he's, I don't know. I feel like he has a little bit of a more up to no good smirk and eyes about him than Greg Wise in the movie. Like he looks a bit more like he's doing wrong.
Yeah, like you can see through him. Yeah,
Mhm.
the other guys have a bit more of a warmness to them than him, I think.
Yeah.
And he just looks younger, so maybe that's why.
Mhm.
But I mean, he wasn't too bad. It didn't bother me.
No, no, I still think he did a good job. And then we have the sisters. So Hattie Morahan and Charity Wakefield. I feel like their hair is very much paying homage to the other movie, the sisters in the other movie. We get the loose curliness of Marianne and the more tight up straight with the bangs of Hattie Morahan. Um, Even Hattie's voice to me feels a bit like Emma Thompson's voice. If you close your eyes, like a bit of a,
Oh
are
yeah,
you?
and the way she spoke, like everything about it, I was like, she's like a mini Emma Thompson.
Mm-hmm. I think really the sisters do such a great job. And it's, if you haven't seen this miniseries, it's only 3 parts. Watch it. You get a little more of the story as miniseries do. Um, and it's worth a watch, even if you love the movie and think the movie, it can't be better than the movie. It may not be better in a cinematic romantic movie sense, but it's really enjoyable.
It
And
is, yeah.
Yeah, worth a
It
watch.
complemented the movie very well, I think. And yeah, I love the actress that played Marion. She was lovely and she reminded me a lot of Kate Winslet, they all did.
Hmm. And I think they have such perfect period drama faces. I'm just looking at them. I'm like, oh,
None of them know what a cell phone is, that's for sure.
exactly. It's like the casting is really spot on. um, I love that about this one. So, other people who do compare this to the movie, like how Hattie Morahan was more of the correct age than Emma Thompson, but it never really bothered me with Emma Thompson movie. You still get Marianne falling in love with Mr. Willoughby. They're quite intimate. They go to his house unchaperoned in this one. And when he, cuts her hair, I mean, everything's so intimate between the two of them.
Did
It's
that happen in
crazy.
the book? Did they go there in the book?
I believe so. It's been a while since I read it. I
So
need to
you'd say
reread it.
this miniseries was pretty spot on with the
Yeah.
book.
Yeah, there's a duel in it, which is in the book, and they took it out of the movie. Yeah, a duel between Colonel Brandon and Wickham. Yeah, no, I think it's really well done. And Colonel Brandon, at the end, I think I like it when Marion says, he's the true romantic, I think. Like, it's so satisfying when you see Marion kind of come to terms with, he may not have been what looks good on paper, or, what what I thought my ideal man would be, but he's true and honest and caring and compassionate, and she ends up with him.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and here's a quote from the book. It is not what we think or feel that makes us who we are. It is what we do or fail to do. So
Wow. Jane Austen, man, she's just got it going on.
oh, yeah, I always think about, that question about if you could dine with anyone from history, dead or alive, who would it be? And I will stand by this. I will always say Jane Austen, because I think being able to talk to her in real life and see how she was in real life, that's just, I guess, a fantasy of mine. Dining with Jane Austen.
Oh, that should be a restaurant, dining with Jane Austen.
Okay, I
Like
like
the
that.
waiters are like a character from her books.
Well, I do follow the Jane Austen house on Instagram, and they do dress up like them and have personas, and it's really cool to see. Every so many people in the world. Jane Austen has left such an impact, and wow, just an amazing woman.
Yeah, I really need to read one of her books.
I'm so glad we have a few more books and adaptations of hers to talk about. So we've done Pride and Prejudice so far, Emma, and now Sense and Sensibility, and we have a few more up our sleeve. So a few other quotes from Jane Austen. Know your own happiness. That's a good one from here. Um, and then I love the quote by Marianne. The more I know of the world, the more I'm convinced that I shall never see a man whom I can really love. I require so much. So, like, this is her looking at Eleanor and Edward being kind of more polite and in their affections. And she's just, oh, I have to express myself. Um, yeah. So I think that the men are quite swoon worthy. I want to ask you, Kayla, for Edward Ferrars, you have to pick Hugh Grant or Dan Stevens.
Oh, Hugh Grant for sure.
Okay. And then I know your answer to Colonel Brandon, Alan Rickman, or David Morrissey.
David Morrissey.
Okay. And Willoughby, Greg Wise, or Dominic Cooper.
Which one's which?
Greg Wise is the movie. Dominic Cooper is the series.
Greg Wise.
Oh, I have another fun question, Kayla. Who is more of a bad man? Wickham from Pride and Prejudice or Willoughby from Sense and Sensibility?
Oh, Wickham for sure.
You think Wickham, but he didn't get someone pregnant.
Oh.
So you're saying taking that out of the equation, like how they
Well,
fooled.
in the series, he kind of explains that whole situation a bit more.
Yeah, he does. There is that moment in the series where he goes back to Eleanor to explain, and she's like, you got to get out of here. You're not welcome here. I know. I almost feel like, okay, if that was taken out of the equation that he got someone pregnant, I would say Willoughby, because even at the I love at the end of the 95 movie where he goes back on his horse to look at the marriage, the wedding scene, and you can just tell Greg Wise as Willoughby is just like full of regret and remorse, and he really did love Marianne. So I know, I think Willoughby, you almost have a little more sympathy for him maybe than Wickham.
Yeah, I mean, I think I do because Wickham was just like no no remorse.
He wasn't really acting out of love or anything. He was just scheming the whole time.
Yeah, he just wasn't a nice guy. And it must have been complicated for not Wickham, Willoughby, and his situation. I'm not giving him an excuse, but
Yeah.
just a tad touch more sympathy, I guess.
And men can grow too and make mistakes earlier in their youth, I guess. All right, well, we're being a little forgiving in this podcast compared to usual. um but I still think that for me, I got to go with Edward Ferrars. His behavior towards Eleanor is so above board. Even though he's committed to another woman, he still shows friendship to Eleanor. He doesn't do anything wrong. He tries to explain, but gets interrupted. So, yeah, I am a Edward Ferrars fan through and through. I love the part in the 1995 movie where Emma Thompson, she's walking with Edward, played by Hugh Grant, and her shawl kind of drops. And then she's like, "Oh, I lost my shawl." And then like Edward picks it up for her. It's just so sweet. I don't know.
Oh yeah, there's so many swoon-worthy scenes to this movie, and it's just so good. It's a classic.
It is a classic. From the funny moments. So that's what the movie has. The movie has a bit more comic moments too. There's Harriet Walker saying like he owns a barouche and like she's being all silly. And then there's a scene where Willoughby leaves Marianne, and Marianne, Margaret, and the mom all close off, go escape to their rooms and close the door on Eleanor, played by Emma Thompson. And she's just like still being reserved, Eleanor, and just sitting there. All the women are crying in the cottage except for her. So there's just some good funny moments in the movie too. I think the miniseries isn't as humorous, maybe.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Also, the cinematography in the movie version is beautiful. I love when it cuts to Marianne walking just before she goes to see Willoughby's house in the storm. And the cinematography is so beautiful. It's just showing the back of her head and the trees and the landscape. And it's just really a moment of foreboding about the impending storm and her impending like sickness. And then she goes to the top of the hill, looks at the house that she would have lived in with Willoughby, and she repeats the Shakespeare Sonnet 116. It's just such a beautiful scene. Yeah, so the 1995 movie ending, it ends with a beautiful wedding scene. And I love that scene with Colonel Brandon and Marianne having their wedding procession, and people are throwing petals at everybody, and Marianne's wearing this beautiful gold dress. I read that it was trimmed with straw, which is kind of interesting. And Colonel Brandon's in his red military suit and looks very dashing. And it's a beautiful scene. Often people think of it as a double wedding scene because you do see um, Emma Thompson as Eleanor and Hugh Grant as Edward there as a couple, and they look pretty nice and lovely. But it's actually supposed to be like they got married beforehand, and Edward officiated, and Eleanor was the matron of honor. So just a little fun fact, but love a good Jane Austen wedding scene at the end. It's just the perfect way to end in one of her on-screen adaptations.
Oh yes, this movie is so beautiful. I love it. Oh, so who would you cast as the women of the movies? Eleanor and Marianne and the mother and the little girl, the little sister.
Oh, well, I feel like they always get the little sister, the Margaret character, to kind of resemble Marianne in appearance. So I think Lucy Boynton, who plays the little girl in the miniseries, She's an actress now in her own right, grown up. I think she would be perfect for Marianne. Do you know who I'm talking about? Lucy
Mm,
Boynton. She
was-
played the little Margaret.
Oh yeah, she would do a lovely Marion.
And then she already played the part of Margaret Dashwood. So playing Marianne Dashwood would be so fitting. So I think that is who I would pick for Marianne. And then Eleanor, I'm going to steal one of your frequent choices and say Daisy Edgar Jones.
Oh, I could see that.
With
Yeah.
her, like, I feel like she could do her hair like that. But, anyways, um, other things, I really think that Kate Sharma, played by Simone Ashley in Bridgerton season 2, that character is so very Eleanor, and she's the older sister. So, um, I just love her in the role as the. I just think, yeah, Simone Ashley could pull it off for sure. I mean, but I guess she's already kind of done that in Bridgerton as the older sister. As for the mother, I don't know. I really love the mother in the miniseries. I love Janet McTeer in the role. She's such a phenomenal actress. Who would I get to play as the mother? Well, Kate Winslet. Why not? She could. I
Oh,
feel like she could be such a good mother character.
definitely. Well, yeah, I think Daisy Edgar Jones could make a great Eleanor Dashwood. But I think another actress that could make a great Eleanor Dashwood would be Daisy Ridley.
Okay. I was, oh my gosh, I was so thinking that, but I just didn't tell you. We are on the same wavelength. Daisy Ridley is so good as in the movie Ophelia. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm with you, Kayla.
And then maybe a good Marianne, maybe Ella Purnell.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I like your choices today.
What about Sophie Cookson?
I don't know her.
You don't know Sophie Cookson. I'm kidding. So let's go with Daisy,
Edgar Jones
Daisy
or
or
Daisy Ridley.
Daisy Ridley. That's funny, both Daisies.
And Lucy, I think Lucy Boynton for sure as Marianne. Like I'm
or,
sticking with that.
or Ella Purnell for
Yeah,
Mary.
yeah. And okay, this is kind of a random question, Kayla. If you had to cast Timothy Chalamet in one of the male roles, like would you cast, could he pull off Edward Ferrars or could he pull off Willoughby? No.
Oh my gosh, can we put Timothy Chalamet in our little back pockets for now? Hollywood. Oh my gosh,
Okay.
people are gonna kill me for saying.
No, it's okay. No, it's okay. Okay. What about a male, like one of the male leads? Do you know anyone who you would cast for them? Ooh, I think Theo James would be a perfect Willoughby. He's got that sort of, you know, easy to fall in love with, but he's got kind of something bad up his sleeve. Like, yeah, Theo James for sure.
Oh yeah, that's a good one for sure. So I think for Edward, what about Freddie Highmore?
I love Freddie Highmore, and he can play the kind of like shy, kind of bumbling kind of character. Yeah, I'm with you.
Or or Thomas Brody Sangster?
Yes, of course. I like him too. And I think of the two of them as similar in style
Yeah.
and character.
Or Tom Holland.
No, Tom Holland. Yep. As
He's my Timothy Chalamet because I think he's so adorable.
yeah.
I think he could be in anything.
Yeah. No, and people kind of think of him along the same lines as Chalamet, like in popularity and style too. So okay. Anyone who can we get for Colonel Brandon that's like a 35-year-old, not a 40-year-old? Like maybe not your instant heartthrob, but like
Robert Pattinson.
how old is he?
He's like a little bit older than he's like a couple years older than you. So he's in his mid late 30s.
Mm-hmm. Okay. But I think he would be like, they'd have to make him look a little more less desirable.
Oh, oh,
Because Marion doesn't want him immediately. She's like, and I guess maybe that's why they've always gone with an older actor, is because they can be a little less heartthrob.
that's a good point. Um,
Tom Hiddleston is 43. I'm trying to think. He might be too good looking too.
Tom Hiddleston.
Oh, I know.
Jonathan Bailey.
No, everyone loves him. He's Bridgerton. You can't do that.
Oh.
I think he's too much of a heartthrob. Hold on, I got this.
Ooh,
This is
oh, I know one. Dev Patel.
I like Dev Patel.
I could see him in that.
Yeah, you know what? And now I'm looking up people for Colonel Brandon, and they're in their 40s. So, like Michael Fassbender, James McAvoy. Darn it! I think I just ruined it. Like this is why they cast 40-year-olds in the role because they need to be a little more
Oh, I've
older.
got it. I've got it.
Who?
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Well, I would definitely not.
Did you say Tom Hiddleston already?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he would be great. You don't like Benedict Cumberbatch?
Okay, so I know everyone loves Benedict Cumberbatch. I think of him in Atonement, and I just can't get past him in Atonement. So I don't find him as like my ideal pick. So maybe he would be perfect
Oh
because
yeah, that's
Marianne,
yeah, that's why I'm thinking because I agree with you.
yeah, people wouldn't go for him at first. And then, but see, we're picking 40-year-old actors. So maybe that's why it's always been a 40-year-old cast as Colonel Brandon. I
Hmm.
think we just figured it out
Okay,
live in the podcast.
there we go.
Can't be a 35-year-old because then
Oh, I know
it's
one.
mhm.
Andrew Garfield.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. He's 35. How old is he?
He's probably in his 40s.
No. Andrew Garfield age. He's 40. Oh, so there was this Persuasion movie from 2022 that just didn't really do Jane Austen's work justice. But I do think Cosmo Jarvis was cast as the male lead there. And I think he did such a great job. I would love like him to have a redemption Jane Austen role. So I could see Cosmo Jarvis as Colonel Brandon, perhaps.
Colonel Brandon. Yeah, and I was thinking Kingsley Ben Adir.
Yeah, from Barbie. Yeah, no, he's good too. So, okay, we're making some fun choices here. Oh, okay. And Cosmo Jarvis is 34. So yeah, I'm going with him for Colonel Brandon. And he looks good in a military outfit. Okay, guys.
Close
So
enough.
we're, this has been fun. We've been exploring casting options and learning something about, you know, why people have been casting certain age groups along the way. But, anyways, hope you had fun with us. All right, everybody. So, thank you all for joining us on this journey through Jane Austen's world of Sense and Sensibility, the Dashwood sisters and their potential suitors. We appreciate you joining us and thank you for all of your support in our first season of the Swoon-Worthy podcast. Please don't forget to subscribe to us on Instagram, Spotify, wherever you may listen to podcasts, and join our Patreon. We'd also love for you to leave a review on Spotify because that helps us too. And we love your feedback and comments on Instagram as well. So thank you, and we'll talk to you next time.